Alright, so what are we at? Oh, Joe, we're on the finishing.
We are on the finishing.
Do we have start a new series?
Yeah. Let's put this one aside for a little while and start a new 12-page story.
If he does
Yes.
that should be because the author suddenly decided to add amendments to this.
A save Azrael story?
Like really great one.
Or maybe
Or else it ends
Or else
terribly, I didn't realize
maybe
that.
Azrael was going to be
decided that we were
saved, and he got so disgusted with all the comments that he ripped that part out.
I feel
And
like
then
if
you're mad,
Azrael was
so you
going to
don't
be
get to read
saved,
this?
then you and him would have both been like laughing because you knew what was going to happen, and so you would be very happy to see our reactions, and he would love the positive feedback he would get.
Oh,
I don't think he
wait a minute. Are you already forecasting that there will be
What?
no positive feedback
No.
as a result?
No, that's
Oh, dear.
another logical fallacy.
Oh, that is true. Yes. Okay. I think you're right. I think I affirmed the consequent again. Sorry. All right, you got me.
Anyway,
Alright, are
no,
there
I'm not
comments?
saying there will not be positive feedback. I'm saying that if he knows we want to save Azrael thing,
And he does.
save Azrael thing, then he would not take it out because he knows that we would most likely like it.
Yeah, unless he just wants to teach you a lesson.
Which might be true.
Well, yes.
Anyway,
Yes, it's hard to know whether or not this has been just a happy experience or a train wreck of a discovery of how your story is interpreted by children who seem to be fixated on a particular theme.
We can have a one direct line when we want it.
You can.
Yeah.
anyway, so does anyone have any
Are there
comments to say?
comments to read?
I don't think I really have much in the way of comments to
Did
read.
they abolish the punching Azrael emoji yet?
They did
If I
not.
was on that server, I would have something to say about that.
Well,
You seem
yes,
to have something to say about it anyway.
Well, sure.
it's true.
I
Yes,
knew
apparently
the
it's just hilariously amusing, and so it shows up from time to time.
That's not.
You just react randomly to a post with punch Azrael in the face?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the meaning conveys, but it's usually just a lighthearted, whimsical face punch.
I don't. I mean, if it's like in fun,
I
rather
think
than literally smacking him in the face. I mean, if a human punches Azrael in the face, that is not going to go well.
no, it's not. It's
Depending
true.
on the intentions.
Yeah. That's true. Maybe
Well,
it's
even if they have good intentions, they still get hurt.
I guess. Oh, maybe you need to write a story in which physical attacks with joy and love in your heart actually make the monster feel better.
So like if you're roughhousing and having fun.
Yeah,
Then-
the monster comes away unbruised and, maybe some cuts
It's
are
like
healed and
human
stuff.
healing magic.
Sure.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
You punch them to heal. What happens if you
I'm
suddenly
gonna
get
punch
mad?
you with.
Punch your wounds away.
Yeah.
That's so.
Such a great
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So
That-
make
that-
us
Okay, if
Make
that
a story
was a
there.
story and that's what they based the emoji off, that would be different. If people kept to that and
you
did
could
not
call your story something like Punching ER.
What?
Punching ER.
and
Where-
then the humans set up a monster emergency room.
Yeah.
But that could go so wrong.
Well, that's true. You'd have to absolutely make sure your mind was in the right place as you're preparing to punch.
Have only Azrael come to it.
Don't
He got hurt.
come if you're irritated or miffed about something.
It's like the coronavirus. It's like, don't come if you've had a fever, but instead it's like, don't come if you've had any bad
Yeah,
emotions
don't come if you're
today.
annoyed at monsters at all.
Have you had
Don't
any
hire them.
anger
Think
in the last
happy
24
thoughts.
hours?
Have you what?
Had any anger in the last 24 hours?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
And probably generic anger is okay. It's just
not.
it can't if it
Well,
can't
but
be
if you're
if it's
bad
directed
tempered,
at
if you're in a
the
bad temper, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah. There would have to
What
be
if, like,
very special
Jerry
training.
It would be like COVID screening when you come in,
That's
except
what I was saying.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, one of you should get working on that.
do it, Emily.
Catherine, you're the one who says I have too many stories.
You do. That's not the point. Wait, that is the point. Yeah, get on it.
All right. Meanwhile, it's time to wrap this story up. Chapter 8, Our Life. The human woke up in a panic, and neither voice in their head was far behind the other. They bolted upright, shared muscles primed to bolt, heart pounding behind their soul. There had never been a time in either of their lives when nightmares like these had not plagued them. Their lives were a picture book of horrors, and their memories, both shared and personal, were an open archive of imagery for their nightmares to pick from. That had never slowed down, not when they joined together, not when they left the underground 2 years ago, not when they committed to sharing their experiences on the surface 2 weeks ago. If anything, this nightmare, with its crushing blackness and grasping pale hands, had only become more frequent as time went on. But they didn't face it alone. "Hey!" It was Kara's voice, followed by a gentle touch against the side of their own face. It's fine. We're safe. It was only a bad dream." They kept soothing for a moment. Usually one of them or the other would pull themselves out of the flashback first, and it was their responsibility to reach a hand for their partner. Today that fell on Kara. They did their best to approach it more gently than they once had, knowing tomorrow they could very well be depending on Frisk to make it out of bed. Frisk's mind, the shadow on the far wall of their mind, slowly grew more distinct, sharper and more aware of their surroundings. "We're safe," Frisk repeated shakily. "We're safe. It's all behind us. There are nothing but good things today." Yeah. Frisk brightened. The sunny room, the soft hand against their cheek, and the consoling tone managing to tug them from the worst of the morning panic. "Thanks, Kara." "Thanks are not required. You do the same thing for me." They were quiet for a moment before pressing on. It still felt awkward to reach out so emotionally, but they knew now how important it was. "Are you going to be all right, or should we take a few minutes?" I think I'll be fine from here. Thanks." They felt a wave of affection rolling across their divided mind and relished the feeling. They had been so cold to Frisk before. It was almost painful now to think about how much they had both suffered in silence from things that they could have been supporting each other through. They knew Frisk was feeling the same affection returned back to them, and promptly felt Frisk's love take on a familiar, mischievous streak. "Kiss." Kara fell backward in the bed with a groan, rolling their eyes so hard it almost hurt. "Come on, Frisk! Didn't I tell you to stop saying that?" "You did, but I'm not gonna," Frisk returned in a sing-song tone. Kara felt their cheeks redden, which only intensified the playful affection building up in their partner. They didn't have it in them to be genuinely annoyed. When they woke up terrified, this was exactly what they both needed, and they both knew it. "It is ridiculous," they shot back. "I am not going to say it." "It's not my fault we've only got one mouth," Frisk retorted. "Come on, kiss." Kara closed their eyes, wondering if their cheeks were glowing hotly enough to catch anything on fire by now. "Kiss," they said back, dying instantly to the combined heat and hilarity that they felt from Frisk. Ugh. Weren't cute couple things embarrassing enough when they weren't a fine line away from schizophrenia?
What does that mean? What's that?
Despite that thought, and despite continuing to tease Frisk for the dumb custom they'd started as they got ready for their day, they were going into their day happy, which, despite being 2 years into their happy ending, was only now just becoming the norm. Mount Ebott was not a long drive away. Distance was the very last of the things that kept the remaining dreamers from making it more than a monthly trip. It was only a half-hour drive up crooked country roads that sloped ever upward, through ancient, dense forests and past the occasional overgrown frames of long-abandoned villages. Toriel said little as they made the drive, and Chara said even less. Frisk chose not to press them for anything. They knew their partner had grown up in one of these old villages, and knew from shared midnight terrors that the memories were not to be revisited. They just squeezed their own hand and felt an affectionate appreciation in return. Finally, they reached one of several entrances to the underground, now overgrown and half forgotten despite the historical plaques set up around it. Ever since the reintegration began, humans had largely avoided this mountain out of superstition, and few monsters held any desire to revisit it. The underground had truly gone empty, or at least almost empty. Toriel parked in a small clearing a little ways from the cave's opening and got out with a strange sigh. "All right. Are you ready, my child?" "Ready." Chara was already out of the car, shuffling their backpack against their shoulders and taking a deep breath. This wasn't the first time they had returned to the underground. It had been Frisk's monthly ritual over the past couple of years as well. But this was different, and not just because they were the ones steering this time. "Then let us be off. Honestly, it is amazing how little has changed." And it was. There were a few more openings into the underground now, apparently because the barrier had been partially supporting a few areas of the ceiling from caving in on top of the expanses below. Neither Chara or Frisk really understood how that was supposed to work, since kids and garbage could pass through the top side to the barrier just fine.
I just realized that,
Kids and garbage.
Yep.
I literally, like, as you were saying that, like, if it's inside the mountain, then things should be able to pass through it. Unless
Kids
there's
and garbage
something on the other side, like a rock slide, and all the rocks on the inside support the ones on the outside from falling through.
Yeah, I mean, it could mostly just be natural caverns and all that are stable, but I guess there are things that
can pass through the barrier. Kids, garbage, garbage, kids, and kid, garbage.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
That sounds
Wow, garbage kids. That's pretty dark.
That's exactly. Probably more like kids who think they're garbage, not kids who are garbage.
Technically, they could both pass through the barrier. But Alphys and various TV geologists had sounded pretty confident about it, so whatever. It also meant there were more convenient openings into the ruins that you didn't have to leap into at life-threatening heights. Soon they were walking along familiar paths across purple-tiled rooms, the shadows of ancient buildings looming over them like the stalactites. "Sometimes it feels just like yesterday I was walking you through these halls, Frisk," Toriel said, an odd note of nostalgia to her voice. "Oh, those switches! Remember flipping those switches?" "I remember flipping the wrong one," Frisk mused. "I remember you being impressively fast at being wrong," Chara teased. They smiled at their mother, speaking out loud. "How could I forget?" Toriel seemed happy. She smiled at familiar sights, at pillars, switches, and vines that had become the closest thing to friends that she had had for 100 years. As miserable as she had been here, it seemed to have a familiarity that made her smile. The smile remained on her snout as they reached their first destination, but it was the sad smile of a mother who had buried too many children. They arrived at a patch of golden flowers where everything had begun so long ago. They were all respectfully quiet as they approached the grave. They didn't pester their mother as she stood and contemplated the patch of earth, solemnly paying her respects. The golden flowers were as meticulously well kept as they had been on every other visit. Toriel had long since given up on questioning why that was, at least out loud, and neither Chara nor Frisk had ever wondered. They knew exactly who was down here taking care of the flowers. They thus knew that this was the one place they were guaranteed to get his attention. Kara waited for Toriel to start sniffing, their cue to come closer and put a gentle arm around her. She hugged them in turn, still smiling even as the tears dripped down onto the stone and soil. They felt guilty, as always, about seeing her in pain, but knew that it wouldn't last long. Today, they were taking their first steps towards revealing the truth to everyone. They were going to tell Toriel and Asgore both that the fourth dreamer was still alive. But before they did that, there was someone else who deserved the truth from them more than anyone else. They needed to leave a message for their best friend. "Mom," Kara said quietly, "would it be all right if I paid my respects?" Toriel blinked, but nodded at once, wiping away her tears. "Of course, my child. I am certain that they would appreciate it."
Kara paying respects, and Kara would appreciate it. Okay. Kara paying respects to Kara, who would probably appreciate it.
Didn't Kara say Frisk said Kara was their best friend, and Kara said that Frisk was their best friend.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And then they have a best friend.
I think Frisk is their best partner, they said.
Whatever.
Sure. I don't know.
Can't remember. I'll have to go back and see.
They probably said both.
Kara knelt down by the patch of flowers, shrugging off their backpack and pulling out a small bouquet of hand-picked flowers that Asgore had happily lent them from his garden.
How do you do that? How do you keep a bouquet of flowers
Oh, I
in
thought
a
you were going to
backpack?
ask how do you lend flowers,
Yeah,
because
I know.
Asgore's clearly not going to get them back.
He might.
Well, whatever.
I don't know. They made sure the bouquet was perfectly formed and lowered it gently to rest among the golden flowers. "You think he'll see it?" Frisk asked thoughtfully. "The note's kind of tucked in there." "I don't want Toriel to see it. It would raise a number of awkward questions if she were to read it. Questions I'm not quite ready to answer." Kara frowned in consideration before making a small adjustment, pulling one single flower in the bouquet out of order. The one who so dedicatedly kept this gravesite for the past 2 years would feel compelled to fix it, and when he did, he would find the note. They half hoped that he wouldn't. But being happy took work. It took owning up to past mistakes and putting an end to years' worth of dishonesty. It took reaching out to the people they had hurt. They would do that. They would tell absolutely everyone. But they had to start somewhere, and it was only right and proper that they start with him. The Queen and the idiot finally turned to leave the cavern. Only then did one of the golden flowers open one eye to watch them leave. He'd forgotten how long they could just stand there, not doing anything. Though there was something interesting about today. Frisk was different. So very, very familiar and different. The way they spoke, smiled, and walked away left him with distant memories that stirred him to his hollow core. And they left a bouquet. That was new. He liked new. One of the flowers was askew, though. Typical. He extended a vine to fix it, causing a small folded note to fall out. He froze. They had left a note? What could Frisk possibly have to say to the person under this grave?
Who knows?
Something so private and important that they had hidden it among their bouquet where the Queen couldn't see it? He read it immediately. "Greetings. Do you recognize my handwriting? I would imagine not. It's changed a lot since we were trading crowns back and forth. I imagine I have your attention now, Flowey, Azrael. It's me, Kara. I'm on the surface with Frisk. I have been for 2 years. I wanted to tell you back when you broke the barrier, but I think you know how it is. I wasn't the greatest person when we were last together. I'm not the greatest now either, but I am changing. Frisk is changing. I'm sure you are changing too. It destroys me to talk to Mom and Dad again, but it means the world to me nonetheless. I am sure that talking to you would be even more so. If you think you would feel the same way, then please come to the surface and find me. I think we have a lot to talk about. How are you feeling? Frisk asked quietly. Chara wasn't sure how to answer that, following behind Toriel at a snail's pace, some paces away. She was already at a brisk pace towards the other end of the underground, another bunch of flowers ready to leave at Azrael's grave. Chara held a similar bunch in Frisk's hand, though there was no note in this one. If Flowey wanted to hear any more from them, he'd have to do as their other note suggested, and follow them to the surface. The idea of him doing just that flooded them with both hope and horror. Terrified? Chara finally replied, a cold pit in their stomach. What if he hates me? No one keeps a grave garden for 2 years because they hate someone, Frisk assured them. He loves you. Even though it's not even possible for him to love you, he still does.
Sounds about right.
I suppose. Still, there's no telling how he'll react. Then don't think about that, Frisk said. We don't have any say over what he does. What's important today is that we're doing the best we can to fix what we can. And that's what you did. You wrote that amazing note. A part of me still wants to go and tear that note to shreds, they whispered quietly. Frisk seemed to understand. I know, but I also know you don't really want to do that, do you? No. I'm proud of you, Chara. Frisk said it with such sincerity and love that it would be impossible to doubt them even if they weren't sharing a mind. We're finally working for that happy ending we talked about. And it all started with arguing over algebra. Hey, everything's got to start somewhere. How about we make today a new starting point? I would like that a lot, Chara said earnestly. And I think I see one up ahead. There was a golden point of light glowing with a radiant intensity on the path ahead. Toriel walked right past it without remark, not even noticing the sheer raw energy it exuded. Chara made an instinctual beeline for it as surely as a starving human would crawl for food. They did this once a month, and had for 2 years now, because life and nightmares had taught them one thing. Nothing in life was promised. A single mistake could take everything from you. They were lucky. Impossibly lucky in a way that they could never deserve and could never pay back. With their shared determination, they could make a safe point in time to fall back on, just in case. It was a ritual that had required both of their cooperation from the very beginning. At best, they could tell neither of them had the power required to do it on their own. They had to do it together. Chara reached their hand out and grasped the light, feeling its power shining within their soul. It had a comforting quality to it, a warmth almost as familiar as the person they shared their head with. They found themselves with a sincere smile on their lips, quietly addressing their partner. Well, will you do the honors? Huh? Oh, yeah, I should do that. Hold on. Chara waited patiently for a moment before Frisk's voice spoke again, taking a different tone. Their old narration game, born out of boredom, continued out of comfort, revisited out of love. Frisk imitated Chara's voice as they did so, which they found too endearing to even put words to. The shadows of these old ruins stretch back far like bad memories, Frisk narrated. "But you've gotten through them before, and you aren't revisiting them alone. Knowing that we will continue through them together fills us with determination." File saved. Kara, LV19999:99, Ruins Hallway. Continue. That was that then. Strange numbers and words flashed through their mind as time folded over them. They understood little of it. Little, except that they were safe now. They had a safe place to fall back if the month didn't end well. Somehow, though, with Frisk more generous and Kara less cold, that constant gnawing anxiety didn't feel so oppressing. In fact, they found themselves daring to hope for another good month. "How was that?" Frisk asked sheepishly as they picked up the pace to catch up with their mother. "I have a few notes for you," Kara said with a teasing tone. "But overall, it was perfect, Frisk. I feel more determined than ever." "Aw, kiss?" Fine, kiss." Warmth shone through their shared mind and soul, and they entered a relaxed pace as they walked behind Toriel across the length of these old memories. They were both filled with determination. They were both filled with the hope that came from not being alone. Because despite everything, whatever it was that brought them strife, be it monsters or humans, nightmares or algebra, Kara themself or Frisk themself, they could talk, they could reason, they could figure it out together. It wasn't Frisk walking this path, and it wasn't Kara. It was both of them.
At the end.
Yes.
That is
That's
the
not
end.
fair.
Why not? It's good.
Because.
Now there has to be a sequel. If there's a sequel, there should be a sequel.
The sequel involves brownies with spiders and lake drowning potentials.
I am excited for the sequel where Flowey follows the note.
Oh.
That should be. Yes.
That should definitely be a thing.
Yes, definitely.
Is there a sequel?
There is not a direct sequel, no.
Is there like an epilogue?
There is no epilogue. That is.
Like, you can't just end it there. That's not.
But he
Yes, you
can.
But
it's
they
not-
didn't say what happened.
Jeff, you
It's
probably.
true.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah, that's what happens in all the stories. It's really annoying. In like all the stories, they never say what happens when all the big stuff is happening.
Well, I think you
Friends
can
know.
you can at least infer that
They got
that
home
indeed
together.
they did get home, and then Kara and Frisk said,
It was
"Mom,
great.
do you want to sit down? I have something to tell you." And then later, after
We didn't
Toriel
hear
came
that
out
part.
of her shock and shock and bewilderment and
Everything that-
disbelief,
Sudden realization that everything
wild
suddenly
hopes.
makes sense.
yes, then they went over to Asgore's and did the same thing.
He just
I
like
just thought
blinks
it-
there for like 10 minutes.
Well, he was a little closer to
yeah.
guessing the truth, so
He would understand, but he would still be
Then you
like,
imagine
he
if
would
it
say,
was,
"I knew it."
then you imagine
He probably
if
wouldn't
like after
say.
telling Toriel everything, they were just like, "Haha, April Fools."
That would be
wow.
so mean.
Wow.
That would be so mean.
I don't know what
You have thrown.
And then suddenly, while they're talking, Sans knocks on the door and demands that they pay for the extra taco because it turned out it was 2 people after all and not just 1.
and
And that's the tragic story.
And then you somehow wonder,
But then
oh,
Cora
that's
shows
the
up
outlet for the tragicness.
Wait, what?
That's the outlet for the tragicness.
Yes.
Oh,
The fact that they now owe 10G instead of 5.
Yeah.
No, wait, it was 20G. Was it 20?
It was.
20 gold seems like a lot for fish tacos. I don't know what the
20
exchange...
gold
I don't
I don't know what the exchange rate here is in
25 for CT.
Yeah,
Kobold
when
King
you're-
world, but
When you're
If
riding
it's like
the
solid
underground,
gold
it's
pieces,
like,
then like
hey, you don't even know if it's gold.
yeah, but it's gold.
Yeah, I guess the underground
Vultures
just
have
didn't
that
have any
currency.
money value.
Well,
Unless
on the
they're, like,
surface, I don't know.
penny-sized gold pieces.
Still,
Oh dear.
I mean, yeah, penny-sized gold piece would be still
Like $5
big,
or
big
something,
bucks.
I
No,
think.
like probably
A
Probably
lot of
way
bucks.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Anyway, yeah.
I hope you enjoyed the story.
It was good.
This was a great thing,
now
and I can't wait for the sequels.
And we need to hear lots of comments when there are comments. Because comments
And
are
it
comments.
was
Yeah, it's my own fault since we're out of sync.
I kind of wish that we had like heard all of the like them telling everybody, but obviously you can't write that part. You always have to leave out the good stuff and let people
Exactly!
infer it.
That's what's.
Well, and I did the same thing
I know,
with
yeah.
Worth 1,000 Words until Emma said, "Oh, what was it?" She was reading along, and
And she said,
I announced
can't wait for
that
the
they
next
were.
chapter.
Yeah, that's right. So I said that they were on their way down the hill, and then I was just going to pick it up, months later.
Exactly, that's
But
what every author does.
But she convinced me that no, I should have an actual scene where they're reunited.
Yes.
And
exactly.
I don't know if it was a terrible scene, but it was at least a scene.
Like everybody always is like, oh well, like the best scenes that you're all waiting for, you can't write well enough, so you leave it out entirely. And I wish they would just give it a shot, and even if it's not that good, like if you're already reading the entire story and looking forward to it, chances are that scene is not going to be any worse than the rest of the story. And so putting that scene in there is going to...
I would guess with this story, probably
make everyone happy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would guess with this story, the focus is Chara and Frisk.
Yes.
Their relationship as it crashes and burns and then is rebuilt and then is happy.
Sure.
So they wanted to end on that note.
Mm-hmm. That's why there's a sequel. I'm not saying he has to stuff all this stuff in the same
Daddy,
thing,
isn't there? Daddy.
I see what you're saying.
Daddy.
Yes.
Isn't there a quote that's like you are your own worst critic or something?
If there's not, there probably should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like writers
always think their stuff is terrible.
I know, and it's never.
Alright, so
Okay.
it's good.
Well, I'm glad you.
We definitely need a sequel.
Okay. Well, I'm sure.
We need a sequel, or else we need a refund.
Okay. Yes. For all the time spent having stories read to you.
Sure. Alright.
Oh, and take away the Punch Azrael emoji.